Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well. Today we are going to touch upon one of the absorbing murder cases in British history, which has been featured recently in a podcast in the Mail called The Trial of Lord Lucan. And QPR wants to know, Lady C, I don't know if you've been following the Mail's The Trial of Lord Lucan podcast, but I'd be very surprised, knowing your wide range of acquaintances, if you don't have your own inside opinion of what really happened that dreadful night in November 1974. I'd love to hear your thoughts, if you'd be so kind as to share them with us. I have not looked at the Trial of Lord Lucan podcast, so I start out by saying that I have no intention of looking at the Trial of Lord Lucan podcast or anything else of that nature. I knew Veronica Lucan slightly, and I met John Lucan, Lucky Lucan, as he was very ironically called, because he was very unlucky as a gambler. My premarital boyfriend was the world's backgammon champion at a time that he was my boyfriend, and we used to go to the Claremont Club, and Lucky Lucan used to be there. So that's how I first ran across him. Veronica, I ran across separately through, if I remember correctly, at a party at Stanley Farmilo's. Or did Stanley bring her to somebody's party? Anyway, I found her insufferable. But I already knew quite a lot about her because my premarital flatmate, one of them, was a great friend of Christina Shand Kidd, who was Veronica Lucan's sister, and I used to go to the Shand Kids' parties. So then Mark Sykes, who was a great friend of mine and whom I interviewed, and you can look, it's a very interesting interview because his grandfather was Sir Mark Sykes of the Sykes-Picot line, and he knew Lucky Lucan very well, and indeed he used to run a gaming club. So that was his world in the 60s into the 70s. Mark always believed that John Lucan killed Sandra Rivet. I have never believed that he killed Sandra Rivet. I believed that Veronica Lucan killed Sandra Rivet. There were several reasons for coming to that conclusion, disparate reasons. I won't take them in any actual order. I'll just take them in a random order. So first isn't necessarily the most important, and last won't necessarily be the least important. But the first that springs to mind is, how likely is it that a man who has just killed your nanny then goes upstairs with you to your bedroom and he goes into the bathroom, giving you time to run out of the house into the local pub and accuse your husband, who is still in the bathroom, of having tried to kill you. That's the first thing. Veronica's injuries could easily have been caused when she was killing the nanny. And I no longer remember now whether it was Veronica or the nanny, but one of them had fingernail tear marks in their mouth. I think it was the nanny. No, I think it was Veronica who had the fingernail tear marks in her mouth, which told me that the nanny, as she was raining blows down on her, the nanny is the one who pushed her hand in her mouth to fight her off. I do not think that a man would have had long enough fingernails to tear open the flesh within someone's mouth. There was that. There was the fact that they had a very bitter relationship. And I think my instinct has always been that Veronica discovered that Sandra Rivet was in touch with John Lucan and giving him information about her and the children. There had been a very, very bitter custody battle, and Veronica had won custody of the children. But very tellingly, after the murder, the children refused to live with Veronica, and they went and lived with their Aunt Christina, and her husband, their Uncle Bill. Same house that I used to go to the parties at. If I remember correctly, it was somewhere in Cheney Road, Cheney Walk, somewhere around there. I mean, we're speaking about 50 years ago. So, over 50 years ago. So, I'm a little bit hazy as to where it was, but it was somewhere in Chelsea. And I seem to recall it was the Cheney area. All of which told, and the children wanted to have and would have nothing to do with their mother. But they loved their father. All of that told me, just off that there was something seriously missing. And I could see Veronica setting up the whole situation. She was a very odd woman. Seriously, disturbingly, discomfortingly odd. And I wouldn't have put it past her to kill the nanny, and knowing that if she pretended that she had been injured by her husband, that she would be able to accuse him and win definitively. That's what I think happened. And tellingly, the previous nanny, Pierrette Goletto, who had been with them for quite a while, she did not like Veronica. She liked John Lucan. She didn't like Veronica. And she loved the children, and the children loved her. And she says that Veronica was an appalling mother. But Veronica had to prevail. So that's my take on it. I could be wrong. Mark always thought he was right and I was wrong. I don't think Lord Lucan killed that nanny. I think everything tells me Veronica killed that nanny. Shaw Roberts says, Prince Andrew's charitable work for the Tall Ships Youth Trust was tremendous. He may stand accused in the minds of many, but that doesn't negate his sterling, unassuming work there or in other areas. Now, I have made it quite obvious over the years that although I believe that Prince Andrew is innocent of the charges against him, levelled by a professional in the true meaning of the word. And you can be the victim of a pretended victim, and I think he is the victim of a pretended victim. But he has done sterling work for. He did Pitch at the Palace, which was very good. He was a sometimes wonderful, sometimes not so wonderful trade ambassador. And he did do tremendous work for the Tall Ships Youth Trust. You're absolutely right. And I really regret the fact that the mainstream media have always had the attitude that they must be going after one member of the royal family while trying to big up another member of the royal family. Less so nowadays, but when we were all young, that was par for the course. And Andrew could not be the hero if Charles was going to be, but Andrew and Sarah for a while were the hero and heroine. And Diana then thought, wow, she supplanted me. She's the star. I'm no longer the star. And Diana decided to claw back her advantage and succeeded. Well, Andrew has regrettable traits, but I think he also has admirable virtues. And I, for one, do not see why he should, as the son of a monarch, the second son of a monarch, whose grandfather, as the second son of a monarch, was given the use of Royal Lodge, why Andrew shouldn't continue to have the use of Royal Lodge. There are no fewer houses now than there were 50, 60, 80 years ago. It's the same number of houses. And I've got news for you. The family is much smaller than it was 50, 60, 80 years ago. You had Queen Victoria's children, some of them still alive. You had Queen Victoria's grandchildren, endless grandchildren still alive, all living at Kensington Palace or in other houses. There's no dearth of houses. So the press fixation with having Andrew stripped of Royal Lodge is just, quite frankly, unsavoury. And people who want to have a different view are welcome to it. You're entitled to your view, I'm entitled to mine. Personal Development says, Lady C, how does one resolve such profound betrayal of one's father as Meghan Markle did? Well, she has resolved it very easily. If you have no conscience and no scruples, there's nothing to resolve. It's only if you have a conscience and scruples that you begin to think, my goodness, what have I done? Why did I do it? Was it worth it? Did the punishment fit the crime? Now, from Thomas Markle's point of view, it's a horse of a different colour. Because, of course, he has struggled to come to terms with the fact that the sweet and loving, if tiresomely spoilt and demanding and self-indulgent daughter that he raised and loved and thought loved him turns out to have not loved him at all and could excise him the way you would excise chewing gum off the bottom of your shoe. He has struggled to come to terms with it. My understanding of my conversations with him is that he has come to terms with it. Of course, I know, as with all loving parents, he would like things to be different. And I don't think he hopes constantly that things would be different. But I'm sure that in his heart of hearts, he'd like them to be different. But he has coped admirably and graciously and decently and humanely with, quite frankly, the atrocious way he has been treated by his daughter. How does a parent resolve such treachery from a child? With difficulty. With difficulty. Personal development says, personal development is the one I just read out, sorry. Amuse Her says, Markle was reportedly awful to the black Jamaican service staff at Jamaica Inn in Ocherius when she married Trevor. She is a bigot and hypocrite. Well, I can tell you something, because I know some of the people with whom she dealt with, and they would say she was snobbish, entitled, arrogant, rude, extremely exacting, very demanding. With hindsight, I think the word bigot applies very well. They thought that she was insufferable and extremely demanding. They didn't say she was a bigot. They said she was insufferable and extremely demanding. And she made it obvious that she thought she was vastly superior to all of them. So does that make her a bigot? I suspect it does. And a hypocrite? Well, she wasn't pretending then, my dear, to be anything but a ball-breaking witch, which is spelt with the second letter in the alphabet, as opposed to one of the last letters in the alphabet. She was a nightmare to deal with. She has evidently always been a nightmare to deal with. She is excessively demanding, pathetically exacting, totally unappreciative. Her attitude is, you're here to facilitate me and fulfill my wishes. Now, hop to it. She'd have made a very good overseer on a slave plantation. That's what she'd have made. She was rarely unpopular. People don't forget things like that. And I'll tell you, when she went back to Jamaica recently, she was avoided like the plague by most people. They think, they wouldn't use the word bigot, but they think that because she's fair-skinned, she thinks she's better than darker-skinned people. And of course, now that she is Her Royal Highness the Princess Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, the goddess of all eternity, the Delphic Oracle, and the Empress of BS, that she, as one of them said to me, she thinks her something doesn't stink. And they said, but she does. So, how true that is, I don't know. I wasn't there. Shelley's YouTube says, Lady C, why did Harry and Meghan go to Nigeria? Why did Nigeria invite Harry and Meghan when they are not working royals and have nothing to do with Commonwealth business, when King Charles III is head of the Commonwealth? Wouldn't it have been far more fitting that Harry and Meghan turned down going to Nigeria and explained they were not working royals? And wouldn't it have been more appropriate for the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh to have gone to Nigeria, or maybe even Princess Anne, the Princess Royal? It just seems so out of place, all of this trip to Nigeria by Harry and Meghan. That's very interesting. It's really, to me, it's quite remarkable that this Nigerian trip has really stuck in the craw of an awful lot of people, and that it's not died a death yet. And I'm beginning to think it's never really going to die a death, because it marks a turning point, one of many, on the road to perdition. Well, I'll answer the question as you have asked it. Why did they go to Nigeria? To big themselves up, to make themselves look more important than they are, to be able to have footage of a quasi-royal tour that was really more of a pseudo-royal tour, that they were also getting a financial reward for going. They were going to be getting many, hopefully, different sources of revenue drummed up as a result of their new links with Nigeria. So money and attention and the need or the desire to be acknowledged as royal, and an official visit by the royals. So ego kicks in as well. Why did Nigeria invite Harry and Meghan? Well, did Nigeria invite Harry and Meghan, or did somebody suggest to the Chief of the Defence Staff that it would be a good thing for him as well as them and Invictus if he asked them? Meghan is notorious for approaching people, and has always been, and then spinning around and making out that they approached her. She did it with the United Nations. She's done it with practically everyone and everything. She makes the approach, and then she sits back and lets everybody think that she's in demand, when in fact she is the predator, she is the aggressor, she is the huntress targeting prey. But Nigeria thought, well, the chief of the defence staff thought that it would be a feather in his cap. And they certainly went to some trouble to put on a phony royal, so even down to having 6 uniformed people for Harry to take the salute from. I mean, talk about a Mickey Mouse operation. Would it have been more fitting to have had, well, no, because the ostensible reason for the tour was for Invictus. Harry is the patron of Invictus. So it wasn't a Commonwealth thing, it was for Invictus. So there would be no rationale for the Edinburghs or the Princess Royal or the King to go on that basis. Also, it wasn't an official tour. It was an unofficial tour. So, or that's actually not strictly, it was an official tour, but not a royal tour, because they were officially asked. So, why did they not turn it down? Why would they laugh a gift horse in the mouth when she most likely went to great trouble to get that invitation? And let's remember his approach to Bob Iger. He's quite the hustler and operator now as well. Remember how he approached Bob Iger at the Lion King performance, drumming up business for his wife? He enjoys being an operator. It was out of place for them to go, but they're hoping it's the first of many. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Because there are many irons in the fire at the moment. And there are many issues on the table at the moment. So the irons need to be kept well away from the table so the table doesn't get burnt. Kelly Geezer says, just being cheeky. Megs should demonstrate how to roast chicken for her first cooking show. It would give all of us a great laugh. Have a wonderful day all, and blessings to all. Kelly Geezer, that's very funny. Yes. I don't think that Megsy Baby is going to be able to show us how adept she is at roasting a chicken on the Netflix show. Somehow, I think she has different fish to fry. But you never know. Just as how they thought it was uproarious that they could tell the public that Archie's first word was crocodile after they had told the world that Harry proposed while they were roasting chicken. Oh. You never know what she'll come up with. You just never know. But my understanding is that Megsy Baby's a little bit more subtle than that. A little. Not much, but a little. And remember, she's a lady of outstanding virtue. So, any of her culinary arts are reserved for her one true love, her husband, the man whom she absolutely worships and reveres and looks up to at all times, beatifically when the cameras are there. And then as soon as the cameras are no longer there, then reality reigns supreme. Well, I think we should close on that note because Kelly Geezer has given us food for thought, hasn't she? Yes. I'm not sure it's a thought that I want to belabor, though. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Okay? Thank you so much. God bless and goodbye. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and Godspeed. Bye-bye.